It's an absolute pleasure to have you all here. Thank you ever so much. I wanted to have a very quick chat with you all about the careers initiative that you guys are doing. So, John and Joe, if I might start with you, if that's all right. What is the Careers Day initiative?
Do you want me to go ahead, Joe?
Yeah, you can start with that one.
The Careers Day, the Construction Careers Day, that now is the foundation of our IAG information, advice and guidance strategy. It's something we introduced about 18 months ago after running a pilot. They were run as separate careers events. And we surveyed prospective learners and employers and parents and bringing people together in a single event where we can do things like initial assessment, get to know our learners, our prospective learners. That's facilitated through the Careers Days events. And data will show us now that if young people come to these events, they're far more able to make an informed choice about their career paths, and in turn our retention success data is much more healthy. It's more likely to stay with us and more likely to succeed. And all of that bundles together in our shared ambition with the industry to develop a world-class workforce. And over the last 18 months to 2 years, that's starting to come to fruition now, and it looks like a really a very effective forum to do that. We have a very effective risk assessment model, but that's based on getting to know learners. So it can be about perhaps an additional learning need they may have or a social need, and both of those things are far more prevalent in the cohort of learners that are coming from school and moving into further education, into the workplace. And we know the earlier we can find out about that, we can put something in place in our learning plans, in our support plans, and we can discreetly rag rate young people and say, this is what we need to do. And it might be the frequency of meetings or a formal support plan or pastoral care, working perhaps even with parents if there's a care need at home. And that's far more prevalent now, where we have young people who are often carers for siblings and in a home environment. And all of those things go together, and we can learn about it really quickly, one-to-one, in a very open and welcoming environment that the Careers Days facilitate for us. And we can get to know that and get started on the right path.
My goodness, what a fantastic thing. Absolutely. And why was it that you wanted to work with Ian Williams?
I think, Joe, you'll be able to pick it. Okay, Joe, is that
Yeah,
okay?
no,
Yeah,
that's
Joe's done the
absolutely
hard work with that, sorry. Yeah,
yeah, no, I think especially moving towards having to deliver the Careers Days virtually, it was really important that we got an employer involved. I think we needed to make sure that what we were doing was not only supporting the young person, but it was also doing something that would support the employers as well. So Ian Williams, we found out, were just about to start their recruitment process, and we've always had a really good working relationship with Ian Williams. And I think it was actually Sian that approached us because she'd heard of the Careers Days that we were looking to develop and sort of expressed an interest. And I think once I'd had an initial conversation with Sian, it was absolutely apparent that Ian Williams were prepared to get involved with every single step of the development. And Sian and her team have met with us on several occasions, and they've inputted into the presentation itself. We've developed the interview questions in partnership, and we've talked through the whole process from start to finish, so from recruitment through to the support that the young people are getting on programme. And I think, you know, Ian Williams, with the track record that they've had with working with us and the support that they've provided for their apprentices in the past, have been absolutely the perfect organisation to work with on this. So it's been, you know, I think we've been incredibly lucky to be involved with them.
Fantastic. Sian, it sounds like Ian Williams and CITB have a fantastic relationship. How did that start?
Well, it's really quite interesting that we are trying to recruit at the present moment in time 33 apprentices. But the context within Ian Williams is that we're not a company in a single town working with a single college to do a single trade apprenticeship. In effect, we have apprentices all over the country, and with lots and lots of colleges. And so it is totally impossible for me and my team to look after all of those apprentices. So we have a really strong relationship with the CITB, who in effect provide our managing agent for all of our apprentices with all of these colleges. They have a much stronger understanding of what an apprenticeship is. You know, I'm a training and development manager. I'm not an apprenticeship expert. And they are able to support our apprentices throughout their program of 2 to 3 years. And it sounds as if it should be really simple, but it isn't simple. For example, apprentices have more personal issues and more difficulties. They're young people, for example, and apprenticeships are not easy qualifications. They're not like doing GCSEs, which everybody understands and are very straightforward. There's all these different elements, practical elements, theoretical elements. The fact that some of them haven't got the right level of English and math skills, but all of that is part of this qualification they need to do. And fundamentally, Ian Williams cannot do that on our own. So we have to work in partnership, and the organisation that we work with mostly in partnership for our apprenticeships, because we have predominantly trade apprenticeships, is the CITB. So it's about this close working relationship. And we found ourselves in this situation with COVID-19, that suddenly this recruitment process had to look completely different, but that there are certain things the CITB have to do, and we ourselves have to follow a rigorous process to bring our apprentice into the organisation. And it just didn't make sense that we were working separately. And so that's why it just made perfect sense to us to work together to come up with a solution that works for all of us, whilst taking on board the fact that for the first time we're not able to meet these apprentices face to face, which has added its own challenge.
Sian, it sounds like you have a fantastic relationship, and CITB really brings a huge amount of value and valuable additions to enhance what you're doing with the apprenticeships. What is it about this specific project, with it being digital, that was so important to have CITB on board?
Well, to be fair, I think it wouldn't have mattered if it was digital or not.
Oh, really? Okay.
The bottom line is that we have to work with the CITB, and the CITB, the one thing I would say about them is it's always a pleasure to work with the people who work for the CITB, because we're all trying to do the same thing. And sometimes we frustrate the hell out of the CITB, and similarly sometimes they frustrate us, because we all have our own agendas and working to our own, what we have to do for, my strategy at Ian Williams and their strategy with respect to the CITB. But the reality is that we are looking after apprentices, and we want to make the experience great for them. And the bottom line is we lose a huge number of apprentices each year despite our best efforts. And so it's about continually looking at our processes and deciding, well, what do we need to do to make it as good as we possibly can, that we choose the right people, so that we're focusing on the people who really want to be here, as opposed to, oh, I might do an apprenticeship. So, I mean, I had a classic yesterday where we were talking to one of our apprentices. I hasten to add, it wasn't a CITB apprentice, who was challenged, well, you haven't been to college and you haven't done it. Well, I don't really want to be a plumber. So why are you wasting our time?
Yeah, right.
And it's about, we've got to identify the people who really want to do this. They're going to have enough difficulties trying to go through the qualification as it is. But if we get the best, first of all, they're more likely to stick at it. And that makes my job easier. It makes the CITB's job easier. And at the end of it, we get great people for this industry who will want to stay in this industry forever.
Fantastic.
Does that answer the question?
Pardon me?
Does that answer the question?
Absolutely, I think that's perfect. this is for anybody. Why do you think partnerships like yours are so important?
If I could start with that. We're an outstanding learning provider with Ofsted, and that's something that's the second time we've been awarded that judgment. We're one of the handful of work-based learning providers, and I used to be an Ofsted inspector, and I wish I had shown on some inspections where she articulated just what work-based learning is, about that apprenticeship, that unique mixture of practical skill development, the knowledge that's needed, and being able to do that in the real world, in the workplace. And without our employers, we would not be outstanding in Ofsted. Our young people, the strength of our provision is they can learn in college, but then they learn how to be craftspeople in the workplace, supported by our employers, doing a real job in the real world. And that there isn't, in a nutshell, as work-based learning, but you will rarely find it. You will rarely find that relationship where the college will teach someone, as I did when I was at college a million years ago, but go back to the workplace, stand next to a craftsperson who had done that for 30, 40 years and learn the real skills that keep me in the industry, all of the tricks of the trade, all of the behaviors, the attitudes, all of that comes from the workplace. And we would not have that if we couldn't work with companies like Ian Williamson. We just wouldn't exist. Simple as that. All of the other stuff we can do, but that bit there, that fundamental link, the coordination of what happens in a college and in the workplace, we simply couldn't do it. And that's the strength of our provision.
Fantastic. Jo, you?
I'm just really echoing what John has said. It's been absolutely invaluable to have the opportunity to be able to work on developing this with Ian Williams, because we've been able to sort of almost check every single stage of the process with them, if that makes sense. So and we've almost like held each other's hands every step of the way. So I think it's going to be I think it's going to have a real positive impact on both the young people that are going to go on to program, because they've been much better informed about what they're going to be able, what they're going to expect. They're fully aware about the support that they're going to get while they're on program, because I think that's really important as well. I mean, Sean mentioned earlier about the dropout rate of the apprentices that they've had, and one of the other key reasons for doing the construction careers days was to be able to identify whether the young person needed any support at a very, very early stage, because obviously the sooner we can identify that, the sooner we can put that support into place, and potentially, recognise that although sometimes young people may come across as not being particularly engaged or not wanting to do what they'd sort of maybe set out to do, there can be other underlying factors. So I think it's really important that we can recognise that people do need sort of support and encouragement, and get that in place at a very, very early stage. And I think, and I'm confident that when Sean looks back on this next year, she'll say, actually, do you know what, this had a real positive impact on our success rates, and all of these young people that went through this process are actually still here and still enjoying what they're doing and still succeeding. So I think, hopefully we can do another catch up this time next year and reflect back.
Fantastic. I have to say, it's incredibly heartening to hear you all speak so strongly about people and the importance of the individuals, both with the learners and also within the organisation, because I think sometimes that can get lost, and those relationships and that care can get lost within the sort of meeting the goals and targets and things like that. So I am incredibly heartened to hear what you guys are doing. I think it's going to be fantastic, and I think it would be wonderful to touch base and see how this has gone, because I think it's certainly a brand new way of doing everything, and we may find that incredibly valuable down the line. So I thank you all so much for joining us this morning, and I wish you a wonderful week, and we'll speak to you all soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.